All right, so welcome everyone. We're now live and we are going to get started. So welcome to our webinar, How to Create Effective Video that will get you the most return. And first of all, I'm going to start with some general information. So first of all, the chat box. So if you can locate your chat box, it's at the bottom. There is a ruler at the bottom and it says chat. So if you can see it, send us a chat so we know that you know where it is. Say hello, say where you're from, your name, whatever you want to tell us. That'll be great. So we can see you there. We have people still signing in. Okay, great. All right, yes. Okay, good. Yes, you located the chat box. That's excellent. Thank you. All right, next to the chat box, there is also the question and answer box, the Q&A box. And this is where you can enter your questions. And we encourage you to enter the questions throughout the webinar. When we say something and you have a question, enter it there and we will answer. Either right away, we will monitor the questions, or we will keep them to the end when we have the question and answer period. This is an interactive webinar, so if you want to say something, you want to let us know, use the chat box or the Q&A box. We definitely want to hear from you, and we want to make sure that we are addressing the questions and the comments that you have. At the end of the webinar, we are going to put in the chat box, we're going to put a link to a survey. So we would ask for you to please fill it out, so it gives us feedback on how we did. And also, if you have requests for more information, you can write it in that survey. And we are offering, at the end of the webinar, you'll get our offer, which is a free consultation, either with Will or myself, or you can choose consultation with both of us. And we'll let you know more about that at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'm going to introduce ourselves. So my name is Klevit. I am the founder and CEO of Business Success Consulting Group. We specialize in process improvement and implementation of management systems in businesses. And Will?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Will Seabrook. I am the CEO and founder of Light Touch Media Group, and I work mainly with video. We do some other things like infographics and other graphic design type work, but mainly I've worked in video for many years. So that's what we're talking about today.
Great. So our objective for you today is for you to walk away from this webinar understanding what is the importance of video, and also with specific actions that you can take in order to create great videos. And we're definitely in for a treat today because Will he is an expert at creating videos. He's created, Will, over 6,000 videos, and so he knows everything that can go wrong and what makes a great video. And he worked with one of the bigger companies on the planet, so he will tell you more about that. But definitely we have an expert here, so we're very happy to have you on, Will. And what's the agenda today? So the first thing is Will is going to talk about defining your goals for the videos that you are making. Then we're going to talk about how to ensure that you are targeting the right audience and the right message. We're going to talk about the importance of copywriting. And then Will is going to share with us what as a great production process looks like. What do you need to look at? What do you need to look for? And also, let's say, if you are hiring a professional, what should you look for? Or if you're doing it in-house, what does it look like? And then we are going to discuss how to decide what type of video is best for your goals. And then the last thing, before we go into examples of actual application, will be what does it take to create a truly effective video? And then both Will and myself will give you some examples on how you can apply videos in your business. And then we'll have the time for questions, to answer any questions that you might have, and we'll let you know how you can work with us. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Will. So let me allow you to share the screen. There you go.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Good. Okay, you can see that fine, Adi?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good. Thank you all for your time today. And I could talk your heads off and would be happy to do that, by the way. She mentioned the free consultation. It really is free. I just love helping people. I've been doing this since about 2009. And I just love helping people communicate. So whether it's internal, external, whether it's sales, marketing, training, hiring, PR, video is sort of, if it's well done, it can be an incredibly useful tool for virtually anything that you need to be doing related to your business. So we'll talk today. Essentially, I'm going to go ahead and give you the keys to the kingdom, give away our secret sauce in terms of what we look for, what we figured out in doing 6,000 plus videos. And we've done it for dozens of industries and verticals. And all sorts of applications, again, from sales and marketing and PR to hiring to training. So we've really seen what works over time and sort of seen the patterns of things. And then we've done it every wrong way that you can do it. So I've sort of hit up against all those barriers or things that we had to work through and sort out. And I've also seen how things have changed, because when we first started making videos in 2009, high-speed internet wasn't even totally ubiquitous the way that it is now. MySpace was the biggest social media site out there, give you a sense of context for it. So we sort of helped pioneer online video, which was really fun to do. So these are some of the clients that we've worked with. Again, I've worked with well over 1,000 companies now, probably closer to 2,000 now. And we've done it for these big names. Obviously, that's really fun and it looks good on a resume. But we've also done it for all mom and pop shops and startups and nonprofits and things like that. So well done video can be done on a budget. Typically what we've seen is that larger companies, they really understand the power of video. If you go to the YouTube channel for any number of these companies and companies like them, what you'll often find is dozens, if not a couple of hundred videos. So they really clearly understand the value, and it's not just, one explainer video on your homepage and you're done. They're really taking advantage of all the video has to offer. And in working with large companies like that, because they're so clearly defined in what they're trying to accomplish, it really was helpful to us to learn, okay, good, what does IBM think a great video is? Okay, that's a pretty good indicator. We'll probably use that for some other people too, was the idea. So the first thing when you go about creating a video is you need to define the exact goals for the video. So how are you going to measure the success of it? Is it simply views? Is it click-throughs because you want them to go to a landing page, or are you trying to get them to sign up on a forum for more information? Is it directly leading to phone calls, meetings, and sales for a specific product or for your overall business? If it's on your homepage, are you a local business and you're trying to get people to watch the video and then pick up the phone and call you immediately? It's important to understand the outcome that you're trying to facilitate, so then you work your way backward from there. So being very clear, and it's important not to try to be all things to all people. So for each video that you're making, there's an audience that would be nice to capture, and you want it to be, you want to make sure that that your PR is correct, and it's the positioning of your company is what you want it to be overall for anything that you're putting out there publicly. But there's going to be one audience that's going to respond in the exact way that you want. You're going to get views from that audience, or you're going to get signups from those specific people. You need to really focus on that audience for the entire video. And that takes us to step 2, which is very clearly defining that audience. So if I made a video dealing with IT people as an audience, it's typically going to be much more technical. We're going to be using industry lingo and nomenclature, specific terminology that audience is going to understand immediately. And if we don't use language that's the right amount of sophistication for that audience, then they're going to know immediately that we don't necessarily know what we're talking about, or their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to say, this isn't for me. This is for consumers. This is public facing. This is not my video. And on the other hand, you don't want to use so much technical jargon and corporate speak that the audience just feels like you're not really saying anything. You want to be very direct and specific, but you really want to be talking to that very particular audience. So what is their job title? Literally, it can be, you can name it out on a legal pad or type it up in a document. What are the job titles of our ideal audience for this video? And then what professional challenges are they facing? What problem or problems are they really trying to solve? And if you take away anything from today, if there's one thing that I could give to you that I want you to take away, it's make your video about that audience and their needs. Make it for them, not for you. So you absolutely want to talk about your product or service or what makes you unique and what makes you stand out and why they should be doing business with you instead of a competitor. But you don't want to make it all about why your company is so great. You don't want to sort of, not that you're bragging, but you don't want to make it all about you. You really want to make it about them and their needs. So try to obsessively put yourself in the shoes of that audience. Who are these people exactly? And at the end of the day, we're all human beings. I think people sometimes forget that with marketing as well. They think there's some mysterious magic formula to what you're trying to communicate. And it really comes down to just being very specific and direct and succinct and speaking to the needs of that audience. So put yourself in their shoes and say, okay, if this were me, what would I want to see? What would I need to see from this company? And a lot of that comes from just knowing your customers. Or if it's an internal video, if it's a training video and you're trying to get somebody to do that job and do it really well, and you don't want to explain the same thing 500 times the way you have been. It's been a time suck and you have to explain it over and over again. And just when the person gets it, they move on to another job. So how do you save time for that if it's a training video? You really put yourself in the shoes of that person and say, if I don't know anything about this subject right now, or I have this basic level of knowledge, but I need to be up here, what exactly do I need to hear and see in this short video that's going to let me have that light bulb moment and say, okay, I get it. Okay, so I do that and that. And you want them at the end of that training video to come to you and say, okay, I get it. I'm ready to try. I'm ready to work through this process and get going. So make it all about your audience, no matter what context, no matter what the use of the video, it's always about them and not about you. And if you do that, your audience will appreciate it. They'll appreciate that you took the time to really understand their needs and speak to them, and you'll immediately position yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about. They're going to watch the video and nod their head saying, okay, these guys get it. And sometimes it takes 15 seconds and they're already nodding their head saying, yes, I've come to the right place. These are the right people. So define your audience very clearly and then speak to them. And that segues into the importance of copywriting. So we start every project that we do with copywriting. And even if it's a live video where we're interviewing people on camera and we don't have a set script, we're still figuring out the questions to ask those interviewees that are going to give us the answers that audience, the audience that we're intending to watch this video, we're going to make sure we give them the information that they want. So when you're writing, be succinct. Less is always more. Make the shortest video you can effectively. Don't shortchange it. So if you're going to lose huge parts of your value proposition or you're going to explain something to a trainee and leave out a step, obviously that doesn't work. But always try to be as frugal with your words as you possibly can. We keep word count limits on our videos. It's part of the way that we have our pricing done. So a 2-minute video is more expensive than a 1-minute video. But part of that is that it just keeps everyone honest and keeps everybody disciplined about how we're communicating, because it's just much better to say it in a minute if you can than say it in 3 minutes. And you'll find, and I'm sure you've had this experience, you'll click on a video and you'll look down at the bottom of the player and you'll say, oh man, this thing's 15 minutes. No, I'm out. I don't have time for this. And you're trying to skip ahead or what have you. But if they look down at the bottom and they see it's 90 seconds, and they really are interested in this subject, they're going to give you that 90 seconds. They're going to say, okay, I can do that. And what I've found is that in forcing myself to be succinct with my language, the video is just better. So I've almost never had the experience where I had to say something in 2 minutes that I couldn't say in 90 seconds. I can always find a way to squeeze it in. And what I find is that it's then very direct, very specific, no BS. Nobody wants to be advertised to. Nobody wants to be marketed to anymore. People just want simple, direct, helpful information. And if you deliver that, they're going to be really appreciative and they're going to respond to it. So on that note, speaking directly to their needs, be real and conversational. So limit corporate speak, limit buzzwords. If you're speaking lingo to an audience like we talked about earlier, speak to IT people. When in Rome, speak Latin to the Romans, right? So if you're talking to IT people, speak their language, but still be as direct and specific and conversational as you can in all your language. And then be sincere about it. So don't try to be something you're not, or don't try to position yourself thinking that this is what the audience wants to hear. Find out, really dig deep and understand your value proposition, what makes you unique, and then communicate that. And when you're sincerely helpful, it comes across. And when you know what you're talking about, it comes across. So there's an old saying for any kind of creative writing, write what you know. The same is true for how you communicate with your video. Don't try to be somebody you're not. If you're a pretty conservative person and you just want to get right to it and you're doing a live video, be that person, be who you are, be the best version of yourself in terms of being succinct with your language. But don't try to do some song and dance that just isn't natural to you. It doesn't feel like it comes across as real to you. If you're sincere in what you're communicating and you're trying to be really helpful to that audience, again, it will come across, they will appreciate it, and they'll respond to it. And the last thing with the copywriting that's so important, it sounds like such a no-brainer, but people sometimes forget, make the call to action incredibly easy. So I've seen videos where we make a really great video and then the URL that they're supposed to go to for more information is like 5 miles long with 14 slashes and underscores and ampersands. And it's like, this is too much. No one's ever going to remember this. So go online to Network Solutions or GoDaddy or do a subdomain in your own website. Keep it as simple as you possibly can. Easy to spell, easy to remember, one word. So it's yourdomain.com/help. You know, something that just really stands out and is simple, and you can punch that again and again and again. And you can do it in all of your promotion, in your emails, whatever else you're going to be using. Just make it, if you're driving them to a landing page, make the URL as simple as you can. And otherwise, make the call to action as simple as you can. So if it's your phone number, put it up really clearly and leave it up on the final slide. If it's an email address, again, make sure it's the simplest email that you can. So again, help@yourdomain.com, something like that. Make it very, very easy for people to take whatever next step it is that you want them to be taking. So let's talk a little bit about the production process. I could talk to you about this for hours, which I won't do, so I'm going to be as succinct as I can. So depending on how you're doing it, whether you're outsourcing it to an agency or you're hiring individual contractors, you need to be very specific and clear from the get-go, even before you sign a contract, who is delivering what. So there's a lot of, I've seen the business mature. When we first started making video, there weren't actually that many companies doing it. And now there are a million companies out there doing it. And you'll see you'll get emails, we can make a whiteboard video for you for $200. And it's true. I mean, there are companies out there that will do that, but the devil's in the details. And so what usually ends up happening is that you're doing the copywriting, you're providing some degree of storyboard or showing them what you want. And you might even be providing some of the visuals in terms of you're having to provide more of the creative assets than you thought you might. So it's very important to understand exactly who's going to be doing that, because your time is valuable. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Define and stick to deadlines. So any agency worth their salt should be able to tell you very specifically, this is the typical timeline. If you have hard deadlines that are really clear, then that keeps everybody accountable. So understand the deadlines throughout the process and then make sure everybody sticks to it. And conversely, I'll tell you, just as a professional courtesy, if you don't have a hard deadline, don't say that you have a hard deadline. Because I've had many, many, many hard deadlines where we have literally not slept and worked all weekend. Come to find out Monday morning, oh, it's actually fine. We have an extra week. And our eyes are bloodshot, losing our minds. Like, okay, thank you. So if you've got a hard deadline, make it very clear from the get-go. And again, if someone says they're going to agree to a deadline, you should hold them accountable. They should absolutely be able to do that. I have never in 6,000 videos missed a hard deadline unless the client pushed it back. And I'm very proud of that. So that helps keep everybody accountable. Understand each deliverable and what you can bring to the table to make it great. So make sure that the process is clear to you about what you need to bring to the table. If you're answering a questionnaire, Make sure that you completely understand what the questions are and why they're important. Do your best to bring your best to the table, and that will help your creative team, whether they're internal or external, do a great job for you. So that can be as simple as sending a high resolution logo instead of one that's low res and pixelated, and that just saves the back and forth and the masking again. Just make sure you understand what deliverables are being asked of you, and then do your best to bring your best to the table, because that'll help your creative team do their best work. And then you just need to define the sequence. And again, if it's an agency that you're working with, they should be able to very clearly define to you, okay, here's the sequence of how it's going to go. So we start with copywriting, then we record the voiceover, then we do a storyboard, and then if we're doing a live shoot, we have that, we edit that together, then we do the animation, and then we deliver files to you. And these are the kinds of files and sizes and resolutions that you can expect. If you're doing it for a TV commercial, for instance, there's a whole process of you have the final deliverable, but then that has to be coded properly, and that depends on whether it's being shown regionally or nationally. So there's a lot of technical details that go into it. And if the agency doesn't know that up front, that can cause a real problem. If you need a 4K file instead of a regular HD file, we don't know that until the last step. That could be a big problem. So it's good to define that from the beginning. So I'm running out of time here. I'm gonna speed this up. So in terms of what to expect from your production team, again, we talked a little bit about it. Just understanding the difference. In my experience, you almost always get what you pay for. So we pride ourselves on doing work that the top agencies do for generally much smaller budgets. But then there are companies out there that are offering videos for $300, and we don't do that because I have not, in 12 years of doing this, I have not figured out how to deliver a video for $300. So, but we are full service, and so we'll meet you exactly where you want to be. You could probably get, if you don't mind being the project manager and really running the show and controlling all those elements, you can find creative people who are very grateful for the work, and I will help you find those people, by the way. If you just don't have a big budget but you really want a video, ask for the private consultation, and I'll explain how I do everything. We have an in-house team that we work with, but I've worked with contractors for years. I know how to find all those people. So if that's the situation you're in and you don't mind taking on all the project management, let me know and I'll let you know about that. If you're working with overseas companies, I've found it to be just really hit or miss. Like anything else, each agency is unique. The time difference can be difficult. So if you're dealing with a company in Europe or in India, for instance, there are very talented people there, but the time difference is a bear, especially when you're working on deadlines. There are tons of talented people in the US who will work for reasonable rates, tons of super talented guys in South America as well, who are in the same or similar time zones. So little things like that might not seem like a big deal up front can really affect you if you're trying to operate within a certain time frame. And then, so the last 2 points, how valuable is your time, and do you want another project or team to manage? That really is where you need to take a look and say, okay, I can work with a sort of a bargain basement budget, but I'm really going to have to take this whole thing on, and I'm going to be the one following up. Hey, where are we at with the process? And you said you were going to get it to me today. The day's over. When you work with an agency, you should expect that they should be the people doing the project management and really running the show. So you kind of have to decide, I love doing this. I recommend it. It's great fun, but it can be a lot of work, especially when you're first figuring it out. So you just have to sort of decide what's more important to you on that. And then I'll say very briefly here in terms of the style, it's so subjective. You can say almost anything with almost any style. 3D tends to be much more expensive because it's much more time consuming. Live can be a bit more expensive because you have to send a live crew out, but conversely, you can capture a ton of footage in one day of a live shoot. You can end up making 15 videos out of one day of live shoot if you do it right. So there are advantages to that. The longer the video, typically most agencies will charge you more, or contractors will charge you for a longer video. So again, trying to keep it as short as you can and still be effective is important. And then there's interactive video. I wish we need to do a separate webinar about interactive video, because that's my new favorite thing. We just started delivering this, and it's essentially several videos in one, and it's done in such a way that they dovetail. It's like a choose your own adventure. I'm dating myself, but it's like the books from when I was a kid. So you can talk to them, you can drive people to one location, one video, and then you could have your 5 most lucrative products and services all right there and say, great, we're so glad you're here. We want to answer all your questions. What do you want to know about? Click on your choice, and you can click on one and then click on the next. So that's really fun. So interactive video is kind of its own animal. But other than that, you really can say virtually anything you want to say in any style of video. It's really your personal choice and preference. Good. I actually did right on the money, right on the button, Nadia. I think I did pretty well with that. So I'll pass the baton back to you. And then...
Fantastically well, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
And I will reshare my screen. And now we're going to talk about the use of video in process documentation. We're going to look at some examples with that. So let me just redo my slideshow here. And
Nadia, are you able to share your screen again? I wasn't.
Yes, I will definitely do that.
Okay.
Actually, you need to let me share my screen again.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Is it in chat? There
no, the host. You have to make me the host.
Right, and that's under participant. Oh, there we go. Okay.
That's right. As you can
we
see,
did
we practiced it really well.
Okay, there we go. All right. Done.
Okay. Here we go. So now let's talk about how you can use videos in process documentation. My area of expertise is implementing processes and procedures and systems into business, and I use a lot of video. You know, that's why we're doing this webinar together, because Will's work is definitely and gets the ability to communicate those processes and procedures to a whole different level. So where can we use what can we use video in process documentation? We can use it in hiring, and I'll give you some really specific examples in a second. Company culture, for sure, you can make a lot of videos that explain and show the real culture of the company. Training, product demonstration, onboarding clients, knowledge transfer. And I'm going to show you now specific examples of projects that we have done, and Will and I will discuss the different aspects of how we can use videos in those. So I'm just going to switch to another screen. And here we go. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. All right, we have a little bit of technical difficulties here. All right, here we go. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, good. So here are some examples. So here we have an example of processes for a company. So those are the main basic processes that each company should have and should have it documented. So let's take, for instance, the HR. So those are the different procedures that exist in an HR department. So let's take, for instance, employee onboarding. So here's the step-by-step. We're creating here a step-by-step checklist for employee onboarding. And here is an example of a video that when you can use a video in order to welcome somebody to your company. So instead of having to repeat it over and over again, and sometimes it's even hard, you know, you are not available. Let's say you have 500 employees, you cannot talk to each and every one of your employees. But let's say you are the founder, and as the founder, you want to have a direct communication to your employees. Using a video, a well-made video, is the best way to do that. And like you were mentioning, in terms of having a script ahead of time, so you know what you're doing, you know what you're saying, and you want to be very specific, cover specific points, and pretty short, right? Well, what would you say? Like how short should it be?
Yeah, I would say with an intro video, I mean, and this is a little bit different because you have a captive audience and they're very interested. You really want to communicate your company culture. So you want
Right.
to make them feel welcome, to be proud of what they're being a part of. So if this one were a little bit longer, I would say even 3 to 5 minutes. Shorter is always better. If you can do it in 2 minutes or less, you absolutely should. But, you know, this is really important. You want to make people feel very welcome, setting expectations, you know, what you expect of them, what they can expect from the company, things like that. So if it's a little bit longer in this case, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, you know, then you have them complete, let's say in the checklist, complete the paperwork, and then we created a culture book here. But in order for them to set the expectations of what the culture book is and how to use it, then there is another video here where it goes specifically on the culture of the company. And then the list goes on, and then you have a video here that explains about the organizational chart. So this is an example of the use in video in onboarding employees. So let's look back at the processes. You know, let's go back to the HR. So let's say you want to explain how to post a job ad. So in this case, you can make a video of basically, this is like, we made a video here of documenting basically the screenshots or the video of this, of what you're working on the computer in order to actually post a job. And here you have the step-by-step, so you can follow with that as well. So that's another option. And then, you know, let's look at those processes like customer service. So, and Will, you can chime in as well in terms of like, there are so many opportunities to do video, to use videos in customer, when you're training somebody on how to do customer service. We just did it yesterday. I did with a client, you know, in terms of role playing, they role played, we videoed it. We actually videoed the wrong way to do it and the right way to do it. And the reason why we did that, we used those two videos as a comparison, because when you look at the wrong way, obviously you start laughing because they made it very funny and very obvious. This is the wrong way, how you're not going to treat a customer. But it sticks in your mind because you go, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that. And here's the right way. So this is why it works, right?
Yeah.
So any other ideas on customer service that you experience that you feel like it's applicable?
I think it really comes down to the ease with which you can expand and stabilize your team. And so really what I would say is anything that you have to say over and over again can be said with video. And the beauty is you take a certain amount of time to say it once and say it to the best of your ability, really feel like you've nailed it, and then you're done. So when we used to onboard new salespeople, it was arduous and it would take me off doing a million other things. And it was just really high maintenance. And then we created a whole series of sales training videos. And it was like waving a magic wand where you could bring a brand new person in, you interview them, they're a good person, you feel like they're going to do a good job. Okay, good. Go do this for a week. Don't talk to me. Come back in a week and we'll talk. And they would come back understanding what we do, why it's valuable, how we sell, how we determine what we're going to sell an individual person. It was kind of a miracle. And it gave me back, I mean, an incalculable amount of time because I'm having to do that over and over again. And it helps that person be better at their job as well, right? So
Right.
that part's exciting. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And then you have you do it also in each one of them that I can think, like in terms of onboarding. So sales, for instance, if we take a look at sales. So when we onboard a new client, that is, you can send a video right there that can get them to explain who you are, what are your values, what do you expect from a new client. I mean, we can break that into a series of videos that you can send to a client or customer when you're onboarding them, and then they know you, they know who you are, they hear it directly from you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, even like this one, an example here. So this is an example of how do you qualify a lead. So we identify here all the steps that it takes in order to qualify the lead. Well, this is a great flow chart, but if we had a video here, like let's say ask the qualifying questions. So you're the top salesperson, you're the sales manager, you're the owner. You can have a video there about what qualifying questions are, and it's so much more effective when they actually hear it from you as opposed to reading it. So I think you got the idea. You can use videos for marketing, but you can also use it internally. So videos. That's our message for today. And So now let's get into any questions. We're going to answer any questions that you might have, and I already see some questions that came in. Okay, so
Yeah, I can
yes,
speak to
absolutely.
the first one.
The first one is, do you have any advice specific to developing videos for sales teams to use at presentations? So I will let you go with that one.
Sure. Yeah. Again, could talk your head off, and feel free to reach out to me. Again, zero obligation. I just really like helping people. So I can go into detail on that. But there's two things that I would say. Go after the low-hanging fruit with the presentation. So the thing that is either that you sell the most often, the most frequently, the thing that's most lucrative for you. Focus the first presentations. If you've sort of got a limited budget and you're just sort of dipping the toe into video, go after the thing that your sales team tells you would be the most helpful to them. And even just fatigue on their part, saying the same thing over and over again, because a well-done video is your best salesperson's best sales pitch on their best day. That's really what you're going for when you create a sales video. It's your best guy on steroids. And it does a beautiful job balancing. You've got the voiceover, and then you've got visuals that really reinforce it, so you can really bring something to life in a unique way. So ask your sales team. That's the number one thing, because I've seen sometimes a disconnect between marketing and sales. And when you really talk to the salespeople who are out there in the trenches getting it done, marketing will have some concept that, well, this is what we really need to focus on. And then you talk to the salesperson, they're like, no, that's not how I know I've made the sale. So if you start by asking the salesperson what they really need or how they really close sales, then you can start to identify, are there any bottlenecks, or is there anything that you're saying over and over again that you just like to knock their socks off the first minute you get into it? Because it can be, with a live person explaining it in an in-person meeting, you might spend 15, or a Zoom call, as we're all doing these days, you might spend 15 minutes kind of orienting them in general, or you could take a 90-second video and say the same thing, make it look a lot sexier and more high-end, like, wow, these guys really know what they're doing. Okay, you got my attention, I'm impressed. And then they really come to the table with that. The other thing that I would say is that we've developed entire series of sales videos. It's for the entire sales pipeline. So I'm sure most of the people on this call know that most salespeople have maybe 3 to 6 contacts typically with a lead before they kind of go on to the next one, because you gotta make it happen. But a lot of sales don't happen until 8, 12, 15 contacts. And part of what happens is you just frankly run out of things to say. So we've developed an entire pipeline of videos that you can use, and any number of those videos, right? You can mix and match. But one example is, people sometimes have to get buy-in when they're talking to someone else. They've got to get buy-in from other people internally. So you sell that guy, and he's totally sold and convicted, but you keep getting the runaround like, yeah, I know I got to bring it up to these other guys, and that guy's out on vacation, and you're just like, oh my God, when is this ever going to go anywhere? But sending a video saying, hey, Joe, I love talking with you on Tuesday. I know that you're convicted about this. I know that you're in on it, but I also know that you need to have buy-in. We've made a video with the top 3 objections that we hear over and over and over again. And the video actually explains why they're not objections. And this is going to make you look great to your peers there that you need to get buy-in from, makes us look good, and you don't have to do the selling for us. I'm going to send you the link right now. I'm going to call you tomorrow to make sure you got it. Hope you're having an amazing week. We're going to do this. That is a very different voicemail than, hey, Joe, just checking in. Would love to earn your business. You know, everybody hates that, right?
True.
So you can identify bottlenecks in your pipeline, in your sales pipeline. And this can be true in marketing as well. What's working, what isn't. What is it that you need to explain a little better, that you need to put a little bit more juice behind? That's really the concept.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so we have other questions, but first of all, we got several requests for our contact information and for the slide deck. So here's what I'm going to do. So in the chat right now, I'm going to post the link to a survey. So please open the link. So you will be able to, if somebody from the audience just want to make sure that that you can open the link, just chat, say, yeah, I got it. So you open the link. That says quick survey, and you can request more information either from Will or myself or both of us, and we will send it to you. Got it? Okay, good. And then somebody also asked for our contact information. Thank you for letting me know you got it. So I'm going to share the screen again so we can, you will have the contact information there. And also everyone that was here, you're going to get a recording of this webinar, because I know it's an amazing content that you can use. So now let's go over the rest of the questions. So there was a question here about any recommendations regarding lighting, location, background, etc.
Yep. Again, I love talking about this stuff. YouTube is your best friend. YouTube's amazing for almost anything you want to do, anything around the house, any fix-it problem. There are just so many talented, amazing people out there. The beauty of this particular topic is that you're dealing with videographers making training videos for other budding videographers. And so they all look amazing because it's a point of pride for the person making the video, right? They want their videos to look incredible. So you can go in and start just searching basic terms like basic lighting setup for interview video. If you go to YouTube and search that term, it'll show you basic standard lighting that you do. And they'll start recommending particular backdrops, things like that. I will say the main thing that you'll see with professional cameras that you don't get like now with this video is you can't get that same depth of field, that sort of portrait look. You can get it like on an iPhone. It's probably on Android phones too, I'm sure. It's the portrait mode that blurs the background, but it won't do it on video as far as I know. That you can get. So sort of understanding your options with that, that's a very quick and simple and easy way to take something from looking like you did it as sort of a Zoom video and something that looks a little bit more pro. So it's incredible now what you can do with simple gear. And again, you can reach out to me. You've got my contact info here. I will not try to sell you anything unless you want me to, and then I'll be very happy to. But if you just have questions about it, I can recommend gear to you, recommend setups, sort of give you basic info. But again, there's just incredible YouTube tutorials out there. Most of them are short. If you've got an option, if one's 40 minutes and one's 5 minutes, start with a 5-minute one. And if you want to dive down the rabbit hole, you can. Someone's asking about 4K. So 4K is helpful when you're editing. So that is basically just the number of dots on the screen. So in HD is about 1080, about 1000. So it's basically 4 times the quality of regular HD. And part of what that does for you is you can edit it a little bit more. So let's say I'm talking and I've got it framed just like you see me right now, right? Maybe more like that. And I'm talking and I do this for a second, I lose my train of thought, and then I'm back and I'm right here. And so I want to say the next phrase. We want to edit that part out, but we don't want it to make it look like I'm jumping over here and jumping over here. You don't want to make it look terrible. If you do it in 4K, you can zoom in for a moment, for instance, and do a little bit of a closer crop, and the final video will still be HD resolution. It'll still look great on YouTube. Looks pretty much totally fine on a full screen on most computers. So that's a little bit of a technical answer. If you can shoot 4K, you should, because there's no reason not to. It will eat up your hard drive space. It makes your computer work harder when you're editing. But 4K is where it's at these days. So all things being equal, if you can shoot in 4K, you should.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Will. And I think we have a little something in the chat. So somebody asked, can you share the process of working with a client to create a culture video from the consultant perspective? So I guess maybe that's a question for both of us, right? In terms of from the consultant perspective, in terms of like consulting on how to, if I understand the question correctly, that came from Barbara. So we work on creating the content, like in terms of understanding the culture of the company, and then shooting the video, right? Will, do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I think ideally, if I could wave a magic wand in a case like that, I would have the owner or the founder be the person on screen, or your chief evangelist. So if you've got someone who's in charge of PR and they're bubbly and fantastic and just everybody's best friend and you can just hear them talk for an hour, you want someone who is convicted to their bones that this is the greatest company in the history of the world, which every owner and entrepreneur feels that way, or they should, right? And so you want someone who has drunk the Kool-Aid daily, and that person is almost never going to go wrong. And just get them, I would have a list of questions for them. I would probably do it interview style. Again, this is just subjective. All these things are just a matter of opinion. But I would do it interview style, and I would just get them talking and then edit out the best bits of it. So what you want is that by the end of watching that, you're like, God, I made a good decision. I'm really glad I work here. This is exciting. I'm going to do a good job for these people. And you want them to understand what they're contributing toward. So I could come up with 3 or 5 questions off the cuff that I think would help facilitate that. But you want to, again, ask yourself, if you're a brand new person, you don't really know anything about the company, what are the 5 key questions that you could ask the founder that are the most important elements of what make up that company's DNA? What makes them different, and why are they valuable? What makes your company unique, and what makes your company valuable? And then what do you really expect from a team member? Those would be the top 3 probably that I would ask.
Excellent. Yeah, and I know Barbara is a consultant herself, and she specializes in implementing cultures. So definitely worth a conversation after the webinar too.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's see if we have, those are all the questions. So with that, we're just on time. So thank you all for attending. It was definitely great having you. And thank you, Will, for all this information and the knowledge. And please fill out the survey so we can, that way we can send you any additional information. And we'll also send you the recording of the webinar so you can have that. And thank you all for attending.